Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's 2-Minute Warning feature interview. We're taking a deeper dive really into what we're seeing amongst oil and gas stakeholders here in the Middle East, as well as globally, towards energy transition, trying to uncover some intelligence that might help smooth out the speed bumps on the road ahead as stakeholders take this path forward. It's 2 minutes to midnight, and I am joined here today with our special guest speaker, 𝗦𝘂𝗲𝗿𝗆, the Vice President and General Manager of the UAE, Oman, Yemen, and Lebanon for Emerson Automation Solutions. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
I just wanted to start out, as we following COP26, for example, we're both at ADIPEC this week. A big part of these gatherings is the idea of forming partnerships, deeper collaboration amongst stakeholders to achieve massive targets that have been set out, of course, in this industry. How do you see digital energy partnerships being structured moving forward in order to achieve success and essentially accelerate the energy transition?
Sure. So, Brian, we've all been trying to partner for a very long time on so many fronts, but this time around, we're being asked to partner in a very different way, I would say. We all seem to be working towards the same goal, but we all bring a different piece of the puzzle to the table that complements each other's offerings. So you'll find today that technology providers have to partner not only with technologies that complement our own, but also sometimes with our own competition, sometimes with expertise that is very niche. So the flavor of partnership is going to be different, and we all have to have an open mind, a creative way of how we do this while still maintaining the business objectives that each of us have, and that also might be different at times. So and we're seeing a lot of openness to that and collaboration driven by very large organization as well as smaller organizations that are coming in with very unique R&D solutions that can help that transition.
Do you think COVID-19 accelerated that need for partnerships, after this past year, especially when digitalization, I think, went 200% to the forefront in terms of speeding the dial a bit?
COVID has just sped digitalization like, we've never expected. Even, we all are using digital technology today that's been sitting in our laptops for years and we've not touched it before. So the same is happening in the industrial world, and the digitalization adoption, there's more courage towards that. There's more value that is seen. It's almost like they didn't really believe it until COVID happened and it became really trusted. And that courage surfaced, and we've seen so many companies change some very fundamental portions of their operations by bringing in digital technology to help, whether it's help their people as assets or even for maintenance and for future sustainability as well.
Do you see that, especially looking at, let's say, the energy companies in the region, that those roadmaps for adoption are pretty well set, or do you think that we're still in the beginning stages and there still needs some, let's say, expedition?
I think they're much more further down than the beginning. I don't think they know exactly yet what the end result looks like. There is still some component of exploration happening because there's a lot of digital options available, and they don't suit everybody in the same fashion. And that's why, from our perspective as Emerson, with a large portfolio in digital transformation, we realize that we need to be able to have scalable ways to address digitalization. Everybody's at a different stage, and everybody is looking for digitization for different purposes. So our solutions have to be able to be quite scalable and also have different outcomes for different end users to achieve their own business objectives as they navigate that transformation. It was a transformation that was happening pre-COVID, even before the big topic of COP and the sustainability. Now it's faster, and it's also taken a little bit of a twist to address some areas that maybe in the past weren't being discussed under the digitalization umbrella.
What do you think? I liked your idea of kind of the bespoke solutions for roadmaps and strategies. I remember, when that buzzword fourth industrial revolution came out, everyone's like blockchain and this, and it's like, take a step back. Let's try to figure out kind of what the challenges are for each stakeholder. What do you think? You mentioned scalability. What do you think are the biggest challenges to scalability today in the energy industry?
So with digitalization comes change management, right? There's a big component of digitalization, change management and digitalization. Those who try to transform digitally without keeping in mind the change management will waste a lot of their budgets on very nice looking technology that will just be used maybe for a very short period of time and then forgotten. We have to remember that at the end of the day, it is humans that are using that technology, not paralleling the adoption with a robust change management plan will not give you the result that you thought investment is going to bring you. So one of the very important things we bring with our end users is that component. And we are, the end users themselves, they're not change management consultants. They know their operations very, very well, but it's a different skill set to get that employee base, those experts, that skill set that they have to break their usual habits and start using newer platforms and newer technology. And once they start seeing the results, the adoption gets easier, but that initial start is a challenge to many end users.
Right. I would hope after this past year and a half, at least end users know how to use Zoom or any team meetings at the very least, and be more comfortable with technology. The other side of the human aspect, you have the end users, but you mentioned an employee base around that, and the employee side of things, essentially for the industry to acquire the right skill sets and talent to achieve their targets and roadmaps and digitalization. What do you think the energy industry could do better in order to retain and attract this talent? We always, especially now, there's the future of work's kind of changing given the last year. You see technology companies outside of energy coming in. I think Amazon is one of the big sponsors here at 𝗬𝗏𝗃, for example. What do you think can be done and really to create that future workforce and especially retain it? Energy has a certain, let's say, perspective or perception around it at the moment.
The first step is to truly understand and invest time in understanding what the newer generation looks for. We sometimes assume that what we liked as younger generation back when we were young is what the younger generation today likes, which is completely different. They're a completely different set of desires and aspirations and ambitions. The understanding that requirement and that what they're looking for will allow you to change internal processes, work environment, even the purpose of your organization, the causes of your organization, and morph that into a company that younger generation is going to aspire to work in. And you have to maintain authenticity because you might attract them because of that. And when they join you, they see a lack of authenticity, and then you cannot retain them. So you have to be true to the cause and true to the purpose. But it's also a difficult thing to ask those organizations to do because we are all of an older generation that we have to think in the minds of the young and impose changes that sometimes we ourselves maybe don't necessarily agree with, whether it's the flexible work hours, whether it's, work from home wherever you are, even using digital tools. That younger generation will not accept bureaucracy or paperwork, so all of that has to be transformed to attract that younger generation and retain them. That's why today when you say the large companies that are now coming into the oil and gas sector and the industry sector, like Microsoft, like Amazon, those names, brands are known by the younger generation for previous reasons, and they're still attractive. And so those younger generation are going to recognize Amazon immediately and aspire to work for what the brand stands for. So the industrial brands like Emerson and the likes have to modernize their work environments and processes to attract that younger generation and retain it authentically.
I think you hit on that key point, which kind of builds the foundation for that, is purpose and authenticity, especially in sustainability, as you see the younger generation, going with a company that has that clearly defined and kind of holds their guns to it, which is moving forward.
And it's impressive how much they know about sustainability. I mean, they are very passionate about that topic, because at the end of the day, it's more their future than it is ours that's going to get affected the most.
Well, how do you think, what do you think would be the first steps of the oil and gas industry kind of changing that perception of purpose? I mean, you've had oil and gas companies who are investing a significant amount of money into moving into energy transition. Hydrogen, ADNOC has a lot of initiatives. Across the region, we have Saudi Aramco, we have PDO. Companies are really investing towards that space, but I still think there might be a stigma around energy companies. How do you think that perception might be able to change? Energy is still the key resource of the world to keep the lights on. We're seeing some issues in Europe, for example, at the moment.
Brian, I think that more than ever before today, those energy companies are being very vocal about sustainability and about their care for that future. Before, it's not been that loud. It's been in passing, it's been mentioned, but today they are vocal about their plans. They are holding themselves with targets, and that makes their position much more credible than it was before. Now, it's very critical that they walk the talk as the years go by, because eyes are going to be on that particular topic, and people will have to show that they are truly doing the right steps towards their goals. But also, I think energy companies have to communicate very clearly to that younger generation, and even to the people currently in the industry who are looking for that authenticity, the phased approach that needs to happen to get to that ultimate sustainable position that everyone is looking to get to, because it is not a switch and a button, and it's the current industries that we have today that are going to enable us and allow us, whether it's financially, whether it's to build infrastructure, whether it's to build the right services and invest in the right location, those are going to be financing those future plans at the end of the day. So it has to be an approach that we identify what we need to do today with the existing setup, how we can do things better today. I mean, we can all find ways to improve our emissions today. Maybe we have not done enough. Start with fixing that fundamental existing issue and show improvement, and then show the next step and the next step. And then with authenticity, people will see that it's a journey. Like Dr. 𝗠𝗏𝗄𝗏 said in his opening speech, it's going to be a journey. The important piece is to communicate along that journey, have that cadence to show that truly everyone is genuinely making changes in their operations at different scales, in different maturity levels, but all towards that ultimate goal.
I think you mentioned an important part there, and we've heard this conversation yesterday. Everyone wants to kind of move in this space, hydrogen, that, but you need to first yourself become experts at low carbon management and get those kind of that basics done. There's an education process to it. I just want to take a step back, and as we're seeing net zero targets be pushed out across the world, the UAE is the first, let's say, producing country here in the Middle East, in the region, to establish a net zero target. What do you think is kind of the first steps in the short term that can be done in order to ensure that that net zero target is a success, especially from the digital side, to make those commitments a reality in a sense?
I think the first thing is looking in-house on current emissions and what technology is readily available, low-hanging fruits that you can bring in and help with that side of the business, whether it's energy optimization or emissions or any of that side of the operations. This is a quick fix. This is something that technology companies can come in, partner with end users, and find solutions. After that, it's important also to identify opportunities on carbon usage, right? Like, you know, you have Saudi Arabia that have a CO2 optimized concrete process that reduces the setting time of the concrete by the use of CO2. If we're going to capture CO2, we need to find different ways to use CO2. And yes, today we inject it and use it in our production, but there has to be more ways that we can reuse CO2 so that it's no longer just emission control, but also feeds back into the business requirement and some of the solutions that can bring output in other areas of the industries or the supply chain. So this is fundamental because you won't find solutions for reusing CO2 very easily. It is going to be a process to get to, and you might need partnering with technology companies on R&D to create technology that's going to help you reuse it in specific areas that today is not being used. I think that's very important when it comes to carbon.
How do you see the R&D space developing? Are you seeing, Emerson, of course, and technology companies, energy companies? Are you seeing further collaboration in that area, further alignment with, let's say, academia as well, who's pushing forward in that space? Or do you think that there needs to be kind of more of a spark to get that going quicker?
I think the appetite is there. I think the appetite is there. I see academia being more involved and reaching out to organizations. I see government encouraging organizations to partner with academia as well. Now, today, technology companies have their own R&D plans, but I am very sure that with the world driving towards that common goal, to deciding whether we invest in R&D that's going to help that goal versus R&D that's going to be, just an extra option that just like a cherry on a cake rather than essential.
You just take it off a bookshelf.
Yeah, exactly. So prioritization of our R&D is definitely going to be impacted by these new goals that everyone is seeking to reach. Universities will continue to help. Now, whether it's more on educating the younger generation or actually coming up with technology, I think it's going to be a bit unrealistic to expect that the joining of the hands of the technology companies with academic institutions that will create those solutions. We need these things much faster than that process would take, in my views. But it is essential that the education happens because that's the generation that's going to actually use that technology for more than we will.
Right. No, definitely on the curriculum side, academia plays a massive role. And I know on the R&D side, if we're looking at here in the UAE right now, 𝗘𝗲𝗄 University is pushing in that space pretty heavily, trying to establish partnerships. Yeah, as you said, it's I think in terms of R&D, stakeholders tend to go for the bookshelf solution. It's there, it's quicker. Where it does the process, aligning with academia might take a little bit longer in that sense. We're just coming up on 20 minutes, essentially. It goes by pretty quickly.
Wow, that was fast.
But I just wanted to, as your closing comments, if we're looking out ahead over the next year, we've had COP26, we have ADIPEC as well that's going on. What are you looking to see following these massive global engagements over the next year, where you'll essentially say, okay, things are really starting to turn the dial and we're really moving into the tangible space of actions, let's say, towards achieving these targets?
I mean, what I would be looking to see is what are the concrete plans of everybody. A lot of discussion happens in COP26, even in ADIPEC, a lot of discussions. We understand the aspirations, we understand the direction, but now it's going to boil down to what are these tactical plans that are going to be driven across these organizations. And the discussion from a technology company should be at that level. It's not after the plan is done, because we should help craft that plan.
Parachuting in.
Yeah, exactly. But we have to emphasize on being pragmatic in what we look to achieve and the timeline. A lot of the time, and we've seen it before with new technology, there's a buzz, there's a hype, everybody wants to be a part of it. We all put dreams and aspirations. This is not digitalization as a good to have like it was. This is the well-being of the entire population. So if we don't keep our feet on the ground and keep ourselves pragmatic on what gets be done, we're all going to live in the clouds, and the worst is going to happen. It's very important that we keep ourselves grounded, and we hope that our own customers and our own end users also work on that. Because as technology companies, we always want to create new technology. We always want to get challenged to do more. But we also have to make sure that our end users understand the realistic goals that should be set, and where we can help realistically in their transformation and their journey.
As you said, pragmatic.
Yes, pragmatic.
Not so much 40,000 feet in the air, but more 10,000 and 5,000 feet to the ground. I think that also touched on a good point as well, as we are seeing these announcements and visions. But the next step is really the strategies and detailed roadmaps, in which that requires all stakeholders to be a part of that process in developing and see where value can be added across the entire value chain. But I think that's it for now. Thank you so much, 𝗦𝘂𝗏, for joining us. And those who are listening and watching, feel free to follow 𝗦𝘂𝗏 on social media, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, of course, as well, Emerson, for the massive updates and great work they're doing in the space. And of course, us at Gulf Intelligence will be publishing this interview across all of our social media platforms, and of course, our intelligence briefing that will follow. But thank you again very much for your time.
Thank you, Brian, for your time.
And your insights, and of course, your valuable knowledge for our stakeholder community.
Thank you.